It's Bones here. The first thing I would like to say is that I am not here to start the next Dark World War on ratios, and I will be showing the purpose of the new card Dark Corridor, several test hands, and then I want to talk about why I chose the list I chose. With that said, if you haven't hand looped the thumbs up and subscribe buttons with Silva and Ceruli, what are you waiting for? You'll never be able to enter the gates of the Dark World like that. To start, I want to read the Dark Corridor. It's the new spell card from Duelist Nexus that reads, add one Dark World monster from your deck to your hand, then discard one card. You can only activate one Dark Corridor per turn, and this is a really strong effect, as you'll see paired with another Dark World card that we have in our hand with Rainbow, as we'll use the effect of the Dark Corridor to get ourselves the snow, and what really makes the Dark Corridor strong is this interaction, getting the snow. The snow gets you another search, and that's just thinning cards for a deck that really wants to deep draw into its deck, so we'll be able to use the Gates effect in order to banish the Genta, and now we can pitch whatever Dark World or Fiend you have in hand, potentially get another effect. If you have the Rainbow, you'll be able to get the Rainbow on board with the Genta back to hand, but we'll also get the search for the Grapha off of it, and then activate the Genta that we return for its special summon, and then activate another copy of Gates off the Genta search, activate the Gates as we'll banish the snow, use the effect of the other Rainbow. We'll just end our turn on this, but I wanted to show what you can do with Dark Corridor plus another name for the Gates effect, just to show how much you can dig into your deck as we're already 10 slots in. Now I'll begin the test hands, and the first one I want to do will be with the Dark Corridor, and by the third test hand, I want you to guess how many Dark Corridors I'm running, as we're going to start with the Dark Corridors effect in order to get ourselves the snow, use the effect of snow. The snow will get us the Ceruli, as we already have a good hand to start. We'll use the Genta in order to get ourselves another copy of Gates, use the Gates in order to banish the Genta. We'll pitch the Rainbow, as we'll then get the Rainbow search along with the Genta special summon. We'll then be able to add ourselves the Silva, as we already have the Ceruli. We'll get ourselves back the Rainbow, activate the Genta to get our third copy of Gates, as we'll then activate the Gates. Now we can use the Gates effect in order to pitch the Ceruli, and now we'll be able to get ourselves a draw along with the special summon of Ceruli, which Ceruli will then be able to pitch the Silva, and Silva will hand loop our opponent for 2, as we're now going to activate the Allure. And something crazy that you're going to see here with the new support is, because of the advantage we were able to get with the Dark Corridor just getting us extra draws, you can really make something out of nothing once you dig deep enough, because certain draws will just get you there. But we're going to destroy the Ceruli, which looks hopeless now, in order to really get our hand loop unless we get lucky, and spoiler alert, we kind of do. We do draw into another copy of Dark Corridor, and this is one of the debates against playing multiple copies of it, in which drawing into them can be dead, but then you also have cards like the Skull Dread, which can put it back where dangers can dump them, so that is the argument for playing multiple copies of it. And then we'll bring back the Rainbow, we'll use the effect of the Library, pitch the Beige. I am on the Beige just because it's another level 4 that you can go into number 60 easier with, which is just 2 draws and a discard. So we'll then be able to get back the Zephyros. From here we can then use the effect of the Skull Dread, which will pump up the Zephyros, and now we'll use the effect of the Gates, banish the Ceruli, use the Snow effect in order to get ourselves the Ceruli, and now we can use the effect of the Nessie in order to pitch the Beige, as that will give us the Nessie and the Beige on board as we draw into a Lava Golem. And now because we have the 2 level 4s, we can go into our number 60, and this will give us a draw 2, pitch 1, as we are going to draw into a Chupacabra, I believe, which is what we end up pitching since we don't want to use the Ceruli yet. And now we'll bring back the Jackalope, and then we can go into a 4 material Appaloosa, as we'll be able to use the effect of Nessie. We will get lucky as we do hit the Ceruli, and then we'll use the effect of the Ceruli as we draw into the Rainbow. The Ceruli will then pitch the Rainbow from our hand, as we'll use its effect in order to get ourselves the Silva and revive the Snow, as we'll use the Snow in order to get ourselves the Rainbow. And this is the really strong part, where you're just able to go into your Coach King and then get 3 more draws. So really, from a bleak situation to something crazy, as we're going to get ourselves another copy of Dark Corridor, and then we're going to add our Lava Golem off another draw, go into the Security Dragon to bring back the Ceruli to our hand. Now we can normal summon our Snow, get back the Rainbow, as we'll then be able to link into the Muckraker, and then use the effect of the Muckraker Muckraker so that we can pitch the snow, reviving the rainbow, use the snow in order to get ourselves the Accession, and now we can activate the Accession in order to go into our Grapha fusion, pitching the Ceruli and banishing the Grapha from the graveyard so that we can keep a Grapha in hand for the pop on our opponent's turn, but then we'll use the effect of the Ceruli on our opponent's board to pitch our Silva, and then the Silva can then hand loop our opponent for 2 more as we're going to bring back the rainbow, use the Accession, as we'll then be able to pitch the Silva. The Silva will give us another body on board, as we'll set the Accession and end our turn on that as we are Fiend locked. For this next test hand, we did not draw into the Dark Corridor, so we have to hope to get there, especially considering we didn't draw the greatest. We have 2 Nessie, a Card Destruction, and the Grapha. Card Destruction is kind of risky with the 2 Nessie and just a Grapha, so we're going to try to RNG our way into it as we're going to get hit with the Jackalope, and again, it's not looking great. We're going to use the Nessie, and then we're going to pitch the Grapha as we'll be able to get into a snow, and now we just have to go for it as the snow is going to be able to really get us going, as we're going to be able to draw into a Genta and also get a search off of it. So now we can get ourselves the rainbow. We'll be able to use the Genta in order to get ourselves the gates. We did get the Nessie pop because of our opponent's Grapha, as we're going to activate the gates, and then we're going to use the effect in order to banish the Genta, getting ourselves the effects of the rainbow and the Genta, as we'll then have access into number 60 if we want to go into that, but we'll revive the rainbow instead, and then add another copy of gates with the Genta as we'll activate the gates, then use its effect in order to pitch another copy of Silva. The Silva will then get its effect as we'll then be able to get back our copy of Grapha. Now we can use the effect of the library in order to pitch the Ceruli, and this will allow us to use the library's other effect as we're going to pitch the Allure so that when our opponent uses the Ceruli that we summon to their field, we can get back our Silva that we discard off of that Ceruli and then hand loop our opponent for 2. We'll use the effect of the Akash. We'll special summon the Grapha back from the graveyard as we're then going to activate the Allure, try to get into better draws as we're going to banish the snow, get the Genta's effect in order to get us the gates. Now we can activate the gates as we'll be able to banish a card and then pitch the Ceruli. The Ceruli will get onto our opponent's board as we're going to then pitch the Silva from our hand. This will hand loop our opponent for 2 more as we're then going to go into the Skuldred. The Skuldred can draw us into 4 more because why not? And we're then going to see another new card, the Singing Cuckoo, and this is a really cool card in my opinion for this deck as it reads. You can activate one of these effects, destroy this card, then draw 1 card, discard 1 card, then draw 1 card. During the end phase of this turn, draw 1 card. You can only use this effect of Singing Cuckoo once per turn, and being able to discard 1 card as effect and draw 1 is all we really need, as we can just use it as our normal summon, play it as a 1-of, and then we're just able to get that discard plus effect off of the snow. We'll get ourselves the Accession, go into our Muckraker, and now we can use the Muckraker to revive the snow, pitching the Allure. We'll revive the rainbow by returning the snow. Now we can activate the Accession, which will allow us to go into the Fusion Grapha, also giving us the pop for the Ceruli along with the snow effect in order to get us a search for the beige, as we'll then be able to use the Accession in order to pitch the beige, reviving the beige. Now from here we can revive the Grapha. For this next hand, we drew kind of awkward again. It's really reliant on the dangers, and we're going to start this one by activating Bigfoot. We'll be able to pitch the Ceruli. The Ceruli will then hit a lucky Silva that we happen to top deck, as this will hand loop our opponent for 2, and I know that hitting Rainbow is another potential option here, but with the Jackalope in hand, I felt why not just go for it, as we could also summon a level 4 off of Jackalope if they hit it, and then normal summon the Zephyros to go into the number 60 if we had to, but we'll then be able to pitch the Rainbow off of the Jack. We'll then use the effect of the Rainbow, which will get us the Grapha. We'll then return the Silva so that we can get the Rainbow, use the effect of the Nessie so that we can pitch the Grapha. The Grapha will then pop the Ceruli, and again, this is going to be another one of those 0 to hero moments where we have to go into our Skuldred. We'll draw 4. We'll be able to fix our hand much how we want it, as we're going to have 2 gates in hand plus 2 Dark Worlds, so nothing better than that, as we're able to pitch the snow, as we're then able to activate the Genta as well, and this just kind of retools our entire arsenal, as we're going to get back the Genta to our hand, as we're then going to activate another Gates, use the effect of Gates, pitching the Ceruli. Ceruli can then special summon itself to our opponent's board, where we'll then be able to pitch our own Grapha or the Silva, so that we can hand loop our opponent for 2 more, And now we can use the effect of the Skull Dread, which will boost its attack as we special summon the Grapha. We'll use the effect of the Genta to get ourselves the Gates, activate the third copy of Gates as we'll use its effect banishing the Genta, pitching the Grapha. The Grapha can then pop the Ceruli. Now we can use the effect of the Chupacabra. The Chupacabra will pitch the Silva as we'll use the Silva in order to revive itself as we draw into the Catalyzer. And this is a pretty solid draw as it's just another extender that we have available to us. And we're also able to get back the Silva for it, which is just really nice. So we're going to go into our Coach King now because why not? And I would like to point out I am not going to play around Nibiru whatsoever here, just because we have so much advantage that we're able to get into. We even have the Dark Corridor now. Our opponent only has one card in hand. If they haven't Nibiru'd you to this point, then I don't know what's going on, but we're then going to activate the Catalyzer. We'll then be able to pitch the Silva as we're going to use the Silva in order to get it back. Use the Skull Dread, which will boost it, but only for a moment as we're going to get back the Rainbow off of the return of the Silva. Then we can go into our number 60. We'll then use the number 60 before the Dark Corridor just to see what our draws are. We'll activate the Dark Corridor, which will add ourselves the Snow, as we can then pitch it in order to trim our deck as we get another search with it. And we're going to get the Library, which will just dig deeper into our deck, so then we can use its effect as we control the Rainbow. We'll pitch the Silva, get another effect as we'll be able to pitch the Beige this time around, I believe it was, which will give us the ability to special summon 2 more bodies, and then we're going to be able to get the effect off of the Saryuja, which again, just a temporary boost because we're going to revive the Grapha. We're then going to go into the Zombie Stein, an important card to play around Dark Ruler. That will also bump it by the Saryuja, and then we can return the Grapha, which we do want to just to keep the Silva in hand, then go into our 4 material Appaloosa, but we're not done yet as we're going to use the Zephyros to return the Gate, and now we can activate the Gate again in order to get another extender. Via banishing the number 60, we're going to special summon back the Silva. The Silva can return itself as we're then going to revive the Grapha, go into our IP, we can set the Accession, and we can end our turn on that. Now, for the penultimate test hand, and this will be another one where we are starting with the Dark Corridor, I believe this one will also be the first hand that reveals how many we are on. So we're going to start with the effect of the Dark Corridor, as we'll be able to get ourselves the Snow. We'll then pitch the copy of Snow in order to get ourselves our Search. We'll then get ourselves the Ceruli as we already opened pretty good, and we're going to get ourselves the Gates as we'll be able to use the Gates in order to banish the Genta and pitch the Rainbow as we'll then be able to get the effects of Rainbow and Genta as we draw ourselves into a Bigfoot. We'll then get ourselves a copy of Silva since we already have the Ceruli, return the Genta for the Rainbow, use the Genta again to get the second copy of Gates, activate the Gates so that we can activate our Gates and then banish the Snow for the Ceruli. The Ceruli will then bump our Silva to the graveyard, which will be able to trigger its effect so that we can hand loop our opponent for 2 while getting the body on board. We'll now activate Allure, and we'll be able to banish the Bigfoot, activate the Nessie from hand, which will pitch the Snow. The Snow will then be able to give us an add, as we're going to get a Dark Corridor to hand, as we'll then activate the Genta, which will give us the ability to add our third copy of Gates. We'll activate another copy of Gates, and we'll then banish the Genta for the Lava Golem to get into the Rainbow, go into the Akashic Magician, and we'll return the Nessie that was placed there just for that, because that's another thing that you kind of do want to keep in mind. If all things do go wrong, you do want to be able to return your dangers to hand just to get those extra discards. We're then going to activate the Nessie, as we'll hit the Zephyros, we'll get another draw as we get into another Nessie. The Zephyros can return the Gates to our hand, which is pretty nice, as we'll now use our 3 monsters on board to go into the Apo, and now we can activate the Nessie, just kind of hoping we get lucky at this point as we're going to hit the Rainbow, and you see that we're actually on 3 Dark Corridors. The answer to the question asked previously is 3, and the reason for that is because, as you've seen through these combos, you play 3 in order to see it, not see all of them. And even though you're digging deep into your deck, as shown on the previous test hand, it's not always going to get clogged up into your hand, and a lot of the times it's not even going to be that much of a problem from my experience. So we'll be able to use the Gates now, pitching the Ceruli, and the Ceruli will then be able to get us that hand loop as we can pitch the Silva, use the Silva in order to revive itself and hand loop our opponent for 2. We'll then revive the Rainbow as we'll go into the Security Dragon, use the Security Dragon to get back our Ceruli, and now we can activate the card Destruction because whatever our opponent has in hand we can negate with the Apo, as we'll then draw into the Cuckoo, which is really nice, and then we can bring back the Silva. We'll use the effect of the Ceruli. The Ceruli can then pitch whatever we want from our hand. hand, as we'll then revive the rainbow by returning the Silva, activate the library, use the library, which will get us more draws. By pitching the Silva, we can then get another pitch, as we'll pitch the Allure. We'll draw into the Accession, which was also really nice, get back the rainbow. We'll then normal summon the Cuckoo, use its effect in order to pitch the Silva and get that draw for another copy of rainbow. We'll then go into our Masquerena, as we can then revive the rainbow by returning the Silva, go into our Muckraker, use the effect of the Muckraker to get back our snow. We can then pitch the rainbow. The rainbow will be able to net us the search for the Grapha so that we can use our Accession on our opponent's turn and get that extra pop. We're going to return the snow so that we can special summon the rainbow and set the Accession so that we have the pop plus search on our opponent's turn. They're only on one card, 2 cards after they draw, along with the Ceruli on board, and there's just not much that they will be able to do against 3 monster negates, a set Accession which can get you into another quote-unquote Omni negate, and the Masquerena, which can be another interruption. Now for this final hand, you'll see that we didn't draw necessarily the greatest again, but we drew enough. So we're going to start with the Genta's effect in order to get ourselves the gates. The gates can then activate using its effect to banish the Genta, pitching the snow. We'll draw into the beige, as we'll then be able to special summon back the Genta using the snow's effect for the library. We can then activate the library in order to pitch a Dark World card, as we'll then be able to use the effect of the rainbow, get ourselves the Grapha, as we'll also get the secondary effect of the library for the draw 2 and the pitch 1, as we'll get ourselves the Silva off of the rainbow, then return the rainbow to hand, as we'll activate the Genta to get ourselves another copy of gates, activate the gates, which will net us another draw, and now we can banish the snow, pitch the Ceruli. We'll be able to use the Ceruli's effect in order to put the Silva in the graveyard so that we can use the Silva's effect in order to hand loop our opponent for 2, return the rainbow, activate the Dark Corridor, and you know where this goes, as we're going to get our snow, pitch that, then we can use the effect of the snow to get ourselves Genta, activate the Genta. We can then get ourselves our last copy of gates, as we'll use the gates in order to get the banish along with the pitch and the draw 1, as we're going to use the Grapha, popping the Ceruli. When you're playing 2 Ceruli and 2 Silva, you really don't need to care about popping it, as you can just do crazy stuff like this, where we're going to go into our Coach King, and now we have the ability to draw 3, and we haven't even gone into our Skull Dread if we have to do that, already having 7 cards in hand, along with an 8th with that last draw, and now we can use Allure to dig deeper into our deck, which funny enough, we actually draw the 2 copies of Dark Corridor. So again, it's not something that's going to happen commonly, but as you see, it really isn't affecting what we can do here, and we're going to use the effect of the Nessie, which will pitch itself. We'll use the effect of the Jackalope now. That gets hit too, as we're going to special summon out the Nessie, and even through all that, we can still go into the Muckraker, bring back the snow, pitch the snow will net us a draw, which will get us the Accession. We do have the Grapha in hand, we can then return the snow, activate the Accession for the Grapha fusion. This will trigger the snow along with the Grapha. Our opponent has nothing though, and we'll get ourselves the Ceruli off of the snow, and then we can bring back the Accession, pitch the Ceruli. The Ceruli will activate, which will then allow us to pitch the Silva from our hand, and now we can activate the Silva in our graveyard, which will be able to special summon itself, hand looping our opponent for 2 more. Now with all of the test hands out of the way, you've seen that I am on the 3 Dark Corridor and the Cuckoo. And as said earlier, when you're playing the 3, you're really just looking to at least see one of it. You're not always going to get multiple copies of it, and when you do, it's a likely chance that you've already dug deep into your deck. So overall, I just think that this makes your deck more consistent. You also have the 3 Allures, the 3 Gates, which is just normal stuff. The lower danger count, because we are on the 3 Dark Corridors, being able to make this another card that you have in hand, I feel is really nice, because instead of clogging your hand with RNG cards, you have something that actually gets you to potential engine starters via getting the snow, and then being able to get into your gates via the Genta search off of the snow, and then discarding whatever else you have in hand, which can just mass advantage as you saw in those hands previously. Now, I do think that the 2 Ceruli and the 2 Silva is more important now with the 3 Dark Corridors, because of how consistent the deck is. You're just able to pop your own Ceruli on your opponent's board almost without caring, because you're just able to go through so much of your deck in order to get the 2 pieces that you actually need. As you saw, there were a couple of hands there where not only did I clog on the Dark World stuff late into the combos, but just because I had so many cards in hand and I was able to do more, we got into Ceruli and Silva anyways. We are digging deep into our deck until we only have like 10 cards left, and then we have Dark Corridor, which is essentially Snow, which is just search for almost your entire deck. With all of that said, I'll get onto the card by card, as we have the 3 Rainbow, the 3 Lava Golem, the 3 Nessie, the 3 Dark Corridor, the 1 Singing, the 1 Jack, the 1 Catalyzer, the 2 Grapha, the 2 Silva, the 2 Ceruli, the 1 Beige, the Chupa, the Bigfoot, Zephyros, Library, Accession, Card Destruction, the 3 Gates, 3 Allure, 3 Genta, and 3 Snow to round out the main deck. To the extra deck, we have the Skull Dread, Appaloosa, Access Code, which you still do want to play for cleanup. We have the Unicorn, Masquerena, Security Dragon, Akashic Magician, Muckraker, number 41 for your random dead hands. They still do happen where you kind of style into a whole bunch of nothing, and that's another reason why I like Beige. It's just a free level 4 where if everything goes wrong, you can just go into this or the number 60. We then have the number 38. Zombie Stein as your Dark Ruler counter, Coach King because he's broken, and then we have the 2 copies of Grapha. Round out the extra deck. Then you see we do have a side deck, and that's because I don't have a lot of options for this deck. I mean, sure, if you do cut down on the Dark Corridors, you could put something like Danger Mossman, but it's not really too much that you're changing outside of that, as I do feel it's pretty standard. But onto the side deck, we have the 3 Denkos, the 3 Kurikaras, the 3 Raigekis, which could be any other board breaker of your liking. We then have the 3 Hatronades, the 3 Evenly Matched, and that will be the end of the deck profile. For everyone who's made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching and for the 500 plus subs. Truly appreciate your support, and now that we've monetized the channel, giving us access to supers and memberships, means more awesome stuff is on the horizon. Get the channel membership, just click on the description below, and there will be a link that takes you there. You'll also notice a free Discord link that I've made for us too. If you want to support me as a content creator, even if you can't donate supers or get a membership for the channel, clicking on those thumbs up and subscribe buttons help a lot too. For those wondering, I do plan on making updates to the channel as the support on the channel grows, but anyways, I hope to see you on the next one. It's Bone.